Hey medics. It's your favorite Dr. Serge Van. I hope histology MCQ has helped you a lot. Today we're going to cover embryology of the cardiovascular system. Take your pen and a sheet of paper and revise with Dr. Serge Van from Medicosis Revision Reality. Please medics, you know what? My cardiovascular system activity increases when you just like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel and obviously comment to this video. So let's get into the gist of today's session. Embryology of the cardiovascular system. Future cardiologist, you must know this. Please. Concerning development of the cardiovascular system, A. The heart develops from somatic mesoderm. B. The right horn of the sinus venosus forms the smooth-walled part of the right atrium. C. The bulbus cordis gives rise to the trabeculated part of the right ventricle. D. Ventricular septal defects are common in the muscular part of the ventricular septum. E. Tetralogy of Talat is caused by unequal division of the truncus arteriosus. To start answering this question, let us first talk about how the cardiovascular system is formed in brief. The cardiovascular system's embryological development begins with cardiac progenitor cells migration in the epiblast, just lateral to the primitive streak. These cardiac progenitor cells eventually develop into cardiac myoblasts. Okay, so to jump in our question. Remember, our answers are either true or false. So question 1 is saying, concerning development of the cardiovascular system, A. The heart develops from somatic mesoderm. The answer is false. Why are we saying it's false? Here is the reason. The lateral plate mesoderm is involved in the formation of body cavities, which includes the pericardial cavity. This lateral plate mesoderm is composed of somatic and visceral layer. The visceral layer is the one which is involved in the formation of cardiovascular system. B. The right horn of the sinus venosus form the smooth-walled part of the right atrium. The answer is true. Why are we saying it's true? The reason is simple medics. So we have the right and left horn of the sinus venosus. The right horn forms the smooth part of right atrium, also called sinus venerum. The left horn forms the coronary sinus, which is large dilated vein of the heart which receives most of the small veins of the heart. C. The bulbus cordis gives rise to the trabeculated part of the right ventricle. The answer is true medics. Why are we saying it's true? The bulbus cordis elongates and forms 3 parts. The proximal part forms the trabeculated portion of the right ventricle. The middle part forms conus cordis, which is the outflow tract, and the truncus arteriosus, which forms the ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk. So there you go medics, we can safely say it's true. D. Ventricular septal defects are common in the muscular part of the ventricular septum. What do you think the answer is medics? This type of question is confusing to most people, I know. But don't worry, Dr. Serge Van will make you master this. So the answer is true. So firstly, as I think you know, or what I assume you know, is that the ventricular septum is made up of muscular and membranous part. So the muscular part is closer to the endocardial cushions than TJE membranous. So ventricular septal defect in muscular part is a hole in the lower, muscular part of the ventricular septum and is the most common type of ventricular septal defect. While ventricular septal defect in the membranous part is the most dangerous. So here is the tricky part medics. Know this: the muscular defect is most common and the membranous part is the most dangerous. E. Tetralogy of Talat is caused by unequal division of the truncus arteriosus. So the answer is true. So first of medics, we have to understand what is tetralogy of Talat. Tetralogy of Talat is a combination of 4 congenital heart defects. The 4 defects are a ventricular septal defect, VSD, pulmonary stenosis, a misplaced aorta and a thickened right ventricular wall, right ventricular hypertrophy. They usually result in a lack of oxygen-rich blood reaching the body. So now you know what it is. The next issue is to link these defects with truncus arteriosus. So truncus arteriosus is the common vessel which carries blood from the heart. In the adult life it forms the pulmonary trunk and aorta. So medics, remember medics, the division or the formation of the ventricular septum is essential for the equal division of this truncus arteriosus. So yes, unequal division is linked to VSD, which is linked to tetralogy of Fallot. That's the end of our question 1, medics. Hope you have covered a lot. Just one question. Let's move on to the next question. 2. Concerning the development of the cardiovascular system. A. The folding of the heart tube to the left results in dextrocardia. B. The left horn of the sinus venosus forms the smooth part of the right atrium. C. The bulbus cordis give rise to the trabeculated part of the left ventricle. D. Ventricular septal defects are common in the membranous part. E. Tetralogy of Fallot results in cyanosis. Okay medics, this is a simple for you. I hope you were smiling while answering. Delicious piece of pizza. Sorry, piece of chicken. Sorry, of cake. You know what I mean medics. Let's move on. So the question, like the previous one, was saying concerning the development of the cardiovascular system. A. The folding of the heart tube to the left results in dextrocardia. So here the answer is true. So here is what happens to the heart tube during its folding. The cardiac loop forms when the cranial aspect of the heart tube bends ventrocaudally and to the right, while the caudal aspect of the heart tube bends toward the dorsocranial aspect and towards the left. The formation of the cardiac loop takes approximately 5 days and usually complete by day 28. So what happens in dextrocardia medics? Dextrocardia is an anomaly in which the primitive heart tube folds to the left in a mirror image of a normal bulboventricular loop. This usually occurs when all the organ systems are reversed, a condition called situs inversus. B. The left horn of the sinus venosus forms the smooth part of the right atrium. The answer is simple if you were listening to the first part explanation medics. It is false. Remember, the left horn forms the coronary sinus. C. The bulbus cordis gives rise to the trabeculated part of the left ventricle. Here again, don't disappoint me medics, I mean it please, in a crying emoji look. I have explained this medics. Obvious, the answer is false. The statement would be true if it was for right ventricle. You should know that the left ventricle is derived from primitive ventricle. D. Ventricular septal defects are common in the membranous part. I'm sure you have made me proud this time by saying it's false. OHH medics, don't say you have already forgotten. VSDs in the membranous part are most dangerous and in the muscular are most common. Simple, so bite. E. Tetralogy of Fallot results in cyanosis. Obviously medics, the answer is true. In the previous question I explained the tetralogy of Fallot. Or maybe you don't know what cyanosis is, right? So cyanosis is a condition where finger and skin turns bluish due to lack of oxygenated blood. So how is this to do with tetralogy of Fallot? Obvious team medics. Dr. Serge Van once said in tetralogy of Fallot there is lack of oxygen-rich blood reaching the body. Are you answered? Or more questions marks have arisen in your head? Okay. So most of the defects in tetralogy of Fallot result in mixing of oxygenated blood with deoxygenated blood, resulting in low content of oxygen. So this question was a typical question used by your examiner to trick you. Remember, MCQs are mind games medics. When answering them, left your mind be not full of alcohol. OHH, sorry. Obviously you are a medical student, you don't drink. What I want to say is when answering MCQ questions, be in sober sense. 3. Concerning the ligament arteriosum. A is the remnant of the ductus arteriosus. B is closely related to the external laryngeal nerve. C connect the pulmonary artery to jet the arch of aorta. D is related to the superficial cardiac plexus. E is located on the wall of the right atrium. Is that hard, medics? It is simple, isn't? Okay, so Dr. Serge Van, I love to explain as I love my wife. Yes, I am married, medics, so don't have a crush on me, instead crush these questions I give you. So firstly, understand what ligament arteriosum is, and then link it to the question. Ligament arteriosum is an embryological remnant of ductus arteriosus. This ligament is also known as Batalow's ligament, Harvey's ligament, and Batalow's duct. In case your examiners decides to trick you, medics, Dr. Serge Van has already backed you up. So the ductus arteriosus connects the aorta and pulmonary trunk. In the fetal period it will be acting as a blood shunt to bypass the lungs. After birth it then forms the ligamentum arteriosum. So no, if you had not read about ligamentum arteriosum, you know, no, medics, that's the beauty of medicosis revision reality. We make you revise, re-understand and understand all the information about your study areas. So why don't you just take this time and like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, medics. So to get into the question, it is saying concerning ligamentum arteriosum. A is the remnant of the ductus arteriosus. Or Dr. Serge Van has already talked about this, why don't you just say it aloud? It's true. Obviously don't say this loud if you are in the library. The librarian will kick you out of the library. But like Ed Sheeran's song Think Out Loud, you can just think your answer loud. B is closely related to the external laryngeal nerve. Or this is some part of gross anatomy. Some might get a negative mark here. So the answer is false. Don't worry, medics, Dr. Serge Van got you covered. I will just explain the course of both the right and left laryngeal nerve. The right recurrent laryngeal nerve branches off from the vagus in front of the subclavian artery. It winds inferiorly around this artery, then posterior to the vessel, and ascends obliquely posterior to the common carotid artery to supply the larynx. The recurrent laryngeal nerves branch off the vagus, the left at the aortic arch, and the right at the right subclavian artery. The left recurrent laryngeal nerve passes in front of the arch, and then wraps underneath and behind it. After branching, the nerves typically ascend in a groove at the junction of the trachea and esophagus. Also, this nerve is posterior to ligamentum arteriosum. The external laryngeal nerve, it's a branch of the superior laryngeal nerve. So there is nowhere they are related. Easy, right, medics? C connect the pulmonary artery to the arch of aorta. The answer is obvious, medics. I have talked about this. The answer is true. I have talked about this, medics. Let's move to the next statement. D is related to the superficial cardiac plexus. This a tricky one too. So medics, the answer is true. Here is the explanation from your humble servant Dr. Serge Van from Medicosis Revision Reality here in Houston, Texas, USA. The superficial cardiac plexus lies between the arch of aorta and the pulmonary trunk, whereas the deep cardiac plexus is sandwiched deeply between the arch of aorta and the tracheal bifurcation. E is located on the wall of the right atrium. Don't tell me you have put a true there, medics. The answer is clear, it is false. It cannot be located in the wall of the right atrium. The ligamentum arteriosum, or arteriosus, is a small fibrous remnant of the fetal ductus arteriosum, located between and connecting the proximal left pulmonary artery and the undersurface of the junction of the aortic arch and descending aorta, at the aortic isthmus. So this question was to show you that both understanding of gross anatomy and embryology are important in understanding anatomy. Most students tend to like gross anatomy more than histology and embryology, which is their downfall. Falloid's tetralogy consists of the following: A. Pulmonary stenosis, B. An aorta which connects both ventricles, C. Interventricular septal defect, D. A closed ductus arteriosus, E. Hypertrophy of the left ventricle. Hey medics, here we are. How many have get all the questions correct so far? So we have already talked about tetralogy of Falloid. So this question is a walk in the park, right? Let Dr. Serge Van walk in the park with you. So the question is saying Falloid's tetralogy consists of the following: A. Pulmonary stenosis. True, there is narrowing of the pulmonary trunk. B. An aorta which connects both ventricles. Remember the overriding aorta part of the tetralogy of Falloid. So the statement becomes true. The aorta will be getting blood from both ventricles. C. Interventricular septal defect. Obviously VSD is there in tetralogy of Falloid. So the statement becomes true. D. A closed ductus arteriosus. Ductus arteriosus has no connection with the tetralogy of Falloid. So the answer becomes false. I was trying to trick you into saying true, but I hope you are wise. E. Hypertrophy of the left ventricle. Yes, hypertrophy of the ventricle occurs, but is it the left ventricle? No, isn't. The right ventricle is the one hypertrophied, so the answer is false. Okay, we have reached the end of the park medics. We go to the last question. Concerning the development of the cardiovascular system. A. The first heartbeat is felt in the 4th week of the intrauterine life. B. Sinus venosus acts as the pacemaker prior to sinoatrial node formation. C. The coronary arteries arises from the myocardium. D. There are 3 important shunts in fetal development. E. In tetralogy of Falloid there is left to right shunting of blood. So to our last question medics, I hope this session have been benefiting you the most. So our question goes on like that concerning the development of the cardiovascular system. A. The first heartbeat is felt in the 4th week of the intrauterine life. The answer is false. Here is the reason why. When expressed in terms of idealized gestational age, the human embryonic heart is said to start beating at 35 to 37 gestational days or 6th fetal development week. B. Sinus venosus acts as the pacemaker prior to sinoatrial node formation. This question must be tricky for you. But don't worry, Dr. Serge Van got you covered. The answer is false. So sinus venosus only collect blood from major veins. In the embryo, the thin walls of the sinus venosus are connected below with the right ventricle, and medially with the left atrium, but are free in the rest of their extent. It receives blood from the vitelline vein, umbilical vein and common cardinal vein. The pacemaker of the heart are natural sinus node cells. During cardiogenesis, the primitive heart tube produces peristaltic waves of contractions due to stimulation provided by natural cardiac pacemaker activity produced by cells of the sinus node, SN, at approximately 5 weeks of gestation. The remainder of cardiac conduction system is fully developed at 16 weeks of gestation. See, the coronary arteries arises from the myocardium. The answer is false. 2 main coronary arteries originate from the base of the aorta as it exits the left ventricle. The left and right coronary arteries. Don't be tricked medics, the coronary artery supplies the myocardium but do not arise from the myocardium. D. There are 3 important shunts in fetal development. The answer is true. Medic's fetal circulatory system bypasses the lungs and liver with 3 shunts. 3 shunts in the fetal circulation. 1. Ductus arteriosus protects lungs against circulatory overload, allows the right ventricle to strengthen. 2. Ductus venosus, fetal blood vessel connecting the umbilical vein to the IVC. 3. Foramen ovale shunts highly oxygenated blood from right atrium to left atrium. So in short, I'm saying the foramen ovale allows the transfer of the blood from the right to the left atrium, and the ductus arteriosus permits the transfer of the blood from the pulmonary artery to the aorta. The ductus venosus is a continuation of the umbilical vein, allowing a large part of the oxygenated blood from the placenta to join the supradiaphragmatic inferior vena cava, bypassing the fetal liver and directly connecting the right atrium. E. In tetralogy of Faraday is left to right shunting of blood. The answer is true. This is the reason why the right side is hypertrophied. Blood from left side of the heart goes to the right, resulting in the right side of the heart working extra more. Thank you for reaching this end of the video. I hope you learned much. The embryology of the cardiovascular system is complex, but with proper revision you will understand it. Some were saying, where can we get your notes? Oh, Medic's Dr. Serge Van has all the notes you want. You can contact him on the Medicosis Revision Reality social media platform. So please don't forget to share the link of this video. Don't forget to subscribe. On Saturday we will be doing growth anatomy of the heart, so stay tuned to our YouTube channel Medics.